Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is Get Outdoors. Ask you right now, look at the little logo in the bottom right hand corner of your screen, click on the subscribe button and get notifications for new videos as they come out. This is going to be a little roundtable discussion of our rim to rim to rim hike in the Grand Canyon National Park. I promised a post-hike video, and this is going to be it. We'll talk about several different things as far as planning, logistics, and the trail itself, as well as some of our gear and whatnot. So with that being said, let's get into it. This is my hiking partner, Todd.
Hello.
He hiked Guadalupe Mountains with me last year, and we did the Top of Texas Trail, which was, of course, a day hike. Our camping trip got kind of canceled due to high winds. Anyway, so we kind of started planning our Grand Canyon hike around the mileage from that trip, as we both did relatively decent, which was 8 miles, I think it was, round trip.
A little over 8.
Yeah. So, first and foremost, you have to get a permit to hike the Grand Canyon and camp. If you're camping down there, you have to have a backcountry permit. You need to do that ahead of time and give yourself a few weeks, if not months, once you fill out your application and hopefully you get approved. My suggestion to you would be flexible with the dates, as they give you alternative dates if one of the campgrounds is full at that point in time. We got lucky. I was unaware of the permit process. I think it was 4 weeks before we left that I filled it out.
Yeah.
So it was pretty tight. I did call and talk to someone in the backcountry permit office. They were super helpful. They even let me amend my permit, as one of the day's mileages was way too long for us to accomplish in a day. So yeah, that being said, we started planning in July as far as what we were going to take, how we were going to accomplish this, and our travel time and whatnot. And Todd had never been to the Grand Canyon, so it was a first time experience for him. I had been to the Grand Canyon once, both rims, but out of the car. We never really did any hiking, so this was going to be a new experience for me as well. We did take 2 days to travel. We're based in Louisiana, so we took 2 days to travel. The first night we were there, we camped at Mather Campground. It's pay to camp, and they do have pay showers there. They had forecasted some light snow flurries and a little bit of drizzling rain, which I don't think we got any drizzling rain. We woke up to about 2.5, maybe 3 inches of snow that morning, which was kind of a shock to the both of us.
Yeah, surprised.
So yeah, it was great. As far as cold goes, we were comfortable the entire time, the whole trip, and I think our gear choices, which we'll get into later, were spot on for what we actually did. The trail itself, we recorded 51 traveled miles. I did use the All Trails app during our hike. Day one, we started off in snow. A good little snowstorm. If you watch the video, you'll see it kind of piling up on me, my shoulders and bag and whatnot. And we had heavy fog and clouds in the canyon. Visibility was crappy. The trail itself, what you thought about the trail itself day one?
Well, day one we were on the mule trail.
Yep.
So with the snow, for me personally, I couldn't tell if there was ice underneath the snow. I don't know, maybe, was it about halfway down it kind of cleared up?
Yeah, it was a little over halfway. About 2 p.m. is when it started clearing.
Yeah, so then you could tell it was more mud than ice when it started clearing up. But there at the beginning, I was skeptical of it. I was a little scared of it, but for the conditions, it was relatively safe, I would say.
The trail was, it's a safe trail if you pay attention to what you're doing. I mean, it's 3 to 4 foot wide in almost all places. They do have some sheer drop-offs, but if you have your wits about you, you just basically stay in the middle of the trail and you're fine. The trail we went down, what he's referring to is the South Kaibab Trail, and the mule teams use that heavily to go back and forth to Phantom Ranch at the bottom. So yeah, we dealt with a lot of mud and that little bit of drizzling rain that we experienced on the way down, and kind of made for tough travel. So we made our way down South Kaibab and ended up at Bright Angel the first night. It was, let's see, right at 7 miles, I think it was, and my mileages, for the purpose of this video, are going to be kind of estimated because there are conflicting mileages if you look online. So right about 7 miles to Bright Angel Campground and Phantom Ranch. We traveled, let's see, we got there, I don't remember what time it was, probably about 3.
Got there early afternoon, I would say.
Yeah, it was about 3 o'clock, I guess. We set up camp and we had a great night's sleep. We were, again, as I said earlier, we were very comfortable. And we started day 2. That was about 7 miles as well. We left Bright Angel Campground and went to Cottonwood Campground. About 7 miles. Trail was relatively easy. For the most part, the elevation gain was small. Few ups and downs, but relatively easy. We made that trip in, what, about 4 hours, 5 hours? We were there really early.
I think we were at camp for lunch or somewhere around lunch maybe.
Yep. A little after lunch, I think it was. You were starting to experience a little bit of difficulty with some kind of muscle spasm in your leg, I believe it was.
From what they telling me, it was like a strain on the, what do you call this right here?
I don't know. You tell
The
me.
groin.
Okay.
I couldn't think of it. But they claim, everybody I talked to said it was like just a strain.
Okay.
Groin strain.
So yeah, he started actually feeling that on day 1, and unbeknownst to me, he didn't say anything and he just toughed it out. And day 2 gave him a little bit of rest, and by the time we got to Cottonwood, it was really kind of bugging him. So we had ample time to try to rest up for day 3, which was Cottonwood to the North Rim. That was just under 15 miles round trip. Went to the North Rim and back down. Unfortunately, I did travel by myself. We got up that morning early, and Todd felt that he couldn't make the trip and didn't want to jeopardize injuring himself any further, which was a wise decision. And I
Looking back, it was the right decision.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was kind of puzzled and a little nervous as to what was going to transpire at that point in time, but you were gracious enough to give me
that's a gong.
Yep. He gave me his blessing, say, get out of here, go on, finish the job. So that's what I did, and I got back somewhere around 5, a little before 5, and that trail was brutal. I will not lie to anyone. We don't do this very often. It's pretty much been an annual trip over the last couple of days, so we go from basically couch to trail. Day 4, we traversed the trail back to Bright Angel Campground, another 7 miles. Wasn't bad. You were actually feeling good
Same
after that
thing,
day of rest.
Probably got there before lunch as well.
Oh yeah, we were way
Yeah.
before lunch.
Yeah.
We actually drank a couple beers before noon, and we hung around. Cut up with some of the guys that were in camp, and we actually made a few side hikes from there. We went down to Boat Beach and back and forth to Phantom Ranch a few times and whatnot. So back at camp, we're back at Bright Angel, another night. Next morning we got up, and last day we packed up, and it was, we went up and out down Bright Angel Trail over 9 miles, and it was pretty much all uphill. Another not so easy trail when you're going from couch to trail. That day kind of got to you pretty bad.
A little less than halfway up, I think, if I remember right. Because it seems like I started off the morning, if I remember right, in pretty good shape.
Yeah,
And I don't know if it's when we hit higher elevation,
I would,
if that's when it started bothering me again.
I want to say right before we got to Havasupai Gardens.
Havasupai Garden, right before there, it started bothering me again. So from that point on, all the way up, it was bugging me.
Yeah. So at that point, we did, prior to, there's no communication between us as far as cell service and whatnot. So we had a game plan where we maintained a line of sight throughout our trip, which was relatively easy to do due to all the switchbacks. So I kept line of sight on him, and I was a good ways ahead of him. And we got to the 1.5-mile rest house, and I knew at that point it was time to finish. We did get notification from a ranger at Havasupai Gardens that there was a winter storm blowing in that evening, and it was not that great, and they were expecting heavy snow. So I made the decision at the just past the 1.5-mile rest area. Once he got there, I took off and finished about an hour ahead. It was enough time for me to go get my vehicle. That way we could check into the lodge, and he didn't have to do any further walking. So, but he finished, you know, he struggled, he toughed it out, and, you know, I was impressed with the, basically the willpower that he was running on. So that finished up the hike. We did stay at Bright Angel Lodge that night, and sure as they predicted, there was about 10 to 12 inches of snow. We actually had to wait till about 8 in the morning to get the roads cleared so we could get out of there. So overall, what's your opinion of the trail?
I'm ready to go back.
Really?
To be honest with you, yeah. I would like to do the whole thing, and I can't say pain-free because just the trail itself is going to present its own problems, but hopefully not big as a problem as what I had.
Right.
Prettiest thing I've ever seen in my life, and till to this day, what's that, 3-4 weeks ago we went, or over a month ago?
First week of December.
Okay, I'm still amazed that we could walk right next to a buck, and it wouldn't shy away from us.
Right.
You know.
And he's referring to the mule deer that are in the park, and they don't. They're so used to people that they just hang around. So I had never, like I said before, never been down in the canyon, and I knew there was more to the canyon than just riding in a vehicle, getting out and looking at viewpoints, which is fine, but it gets kind of boring.
Well, I'll be honest, the first day we were there,
Right.
we went to the rim and we gazed down, and it'll take your breath away. It's beautiful. But you see everything
Right.
from the bottom. It's a different perspective,
Most definitely.
and I can't even explain it. It's just that gorgeous, that pretty. And it amazes me that God had the fortitude to think, I'm gonna put this color rock here, this color rock there, because it changed all the time.
Sure. There were so many colors. Hell, and I think I might have said that in the video. I could literally make a video of just all the colors that's.
Well, you remember when we got to the green rock?
Yeah.
On that first day, I thought it was maybe foliage from the trees or something that kind of leaped on it. But then you get to looking and there's acres and acres, or maybe miles and miles of green rock.
Right.
So then you kind of realize, well, no, that's not coming from trees or anything. That's the color of the rock. At one point, I even stopped and kind of rubbed to see if it rubbed off, and
Yeah.
it's just the color of the rock.
I don't know. I don't
I
have
mean,
any kind
there's
of.
green, red, yellow,
Sure.
brown, black. It's amazing.
And just the terrain can go from it. Now, don't get me wrong. There's no lush forest in Grand Canyon, but it does get kind of. It's more desert, and but there is some greenery there. Which, of course, we were there in December, so it was a little less than normal.
Well, at the same time, like it's snowing up on the ridge.
Right.
Down at the bottom, the trees still have leaves on them.
Sure. And at that point in time, it still looked like fall. The cottonwoods had golden leaves, bright yellow, and there were a few other trees that had, red and brown. But as far as greenery goes, it still had green grass,
Yeah.
and but there was also some portions of the trail, especially between Cottonwood and Bright Angel, where it was more deserty, kind of barren. But
I'd have to say, because I've only been on the one other hike,
Mhm.
this particular hike, almost every trail had a different kind of terrain to it.
Yeah.
Because remember at one point, we're hiking in sand, basically.
Right, right.
And then it goes from rock, and then it goes from, just everything was different. It was never the same, so every part of it was a challenge.
Sure. And every trail that I've done, you can't compare one national park to the other, and you can't compare one trail to another. It's all apples and oranges.
Yeah.
Yes, you might have your favorite, but no two trails are the same, and the trail conditions change. Obviously, I mean, we were walking
And
in.
they change on the same trail.
That's what I'm saying. We
Yeah.
walked in mule tracks, mud, water, and mule poop for the first 2 or 3 miles, and then it started kind of drying up once we got to that more sandy section of the South Kaibab. So yeah, we'll talk about our gear a little bit. Todd's still getting into the hiking thing, and I had spare gear, so I was able to loan him enough to get him through this trip. Shelter-wise, I used a Nemo Hornet 2P, and he was using a King's Peak 2, made by No Limits, I believe. And before I go any further into the gear, I need to, full disclosure, not getting compensated for this. This is totally gear that I purchased on my own, and I'm not being sponsored by anyone. So we did have each a sleep pad that was made by Nemo. He had a tensor and I had a tensor insulated. We both, like we said before, both slept comfortably fine. He had a North Face sleeping bag, mummy style. I forgot the model name, but it was comfortable down to 20 according to the manufacturer. I used a UGQ top quilt, Bandit top quilt, and it was also rated for 20 degrees. Clothing wise, we really didn't wear anything heavy. Everything
This
was,
is what I wore right here.
for the most part, yeah. He had that little fleece, and I had a fleece, but thin layers. I had 2 thin shirts underneath my fleece, and for the most part, other than getting up at camp in the morning, I might have put my puffy on for a little while. When it comes to food, that was a whole nother ball game. He and I shopped together. I had a game plan. I packed about 5.5 days of food with me into the canyon. He did as well. The only difference is I ate everything, literally. I came home with 2 Knorr rice sides. Everything else was consumed. You came back with quite a bit more.
Quite a bit.
You didn't consume nearly as many calories as I did for some reason.
I think, you and I talked about it. For whatever body type you have, you need that fuel to keep going.
Sure.
For whatever reason, I didn't need that much fuel to keep going.
Yeah.
But I can tell you what I ate. I was never hungry.
Yeah. And I'm opposite. I stayed hungry the entire time. I stayed eating, and as far as water, we packed each of 2 liters into the canyon, and we filtered water out of Bright Angel Creek the rest of the time. We used a Sawyer squeeze on top of a Smart Water bottle, and it worked out perfect. Only once did I come close to running out of water, and that was further up on the North Kaibab Trail. And that's just due to how much I was putting my body through to get up there to the North Rim. So any thoughts or improvements you think, suggestions as far as gear, food, water?
As far as gear, no.
No.
We didn't have a glitch on any of that.
So I think what we discussed as far as planning and having a good game plan before attempting that hike, I think that went a long ways into how far you got and how far I got, and I say that with all due respect, I mean, you can't predict or overcome an injury while you're on trail for the most part, unless
Right.
you got multiple days to rest it and kind of rehab it. But the difficulty of the trail is, there are people, men, women, that do this same distance in under 24 hours. I don't know how they do it. My hat's off to them, because it's a tough trail. Like I said, we went from the couch to the trail. Now, don't get me wrong. We do spend a little bit of time in the gym, kind of staying fit throughout the year. But everybody says you need to prepare and train for these trails, this kind of difficulty. I honestly don't know how you would prepare for something like this. You can do Stairmaster, you can do treadmill. The only way that I could see that you could comfortably prepare would be to get out and hike hills.
Hike hills, which we don't have.
Yeah, we don't have. So in our planning stage, we kind of mapped out the mileages, giving ourselves one big day, which would have been from Cottonwood to the North Rim. We knew it was going to be over 14, just under 15, whatever the mileage is. That was going to be a tough day, but half of it was uphill, the other half was downhill. So that was kind of the trade-off. And the last day was the other big day, which would have been all the way up a Bright Angel from the campground to the trailhead on the South Rim. And we actually had an additional 4 miles back to the vehicle originally. But when we arrived there, talking to the rangers, letting them know what you have planned, they are super helpful in giving you insight, because some of these rangers have already done it. They know people that have done it, so they can offer you tips that could potentially help you and save you from doing extra mileage, which in this case it did. We hung out at the visitor center with one of the rangers, talked to him for about a half hour, and he said, basically you can park your truck here, take a shuttle to the trailhead, and take a shuttle back to your truck once you're done from each trailhead, being South Kaibab on the start and Bright Angel on the finish, which worked out perfectly. We didn't have to worry about walking the the rim trail for about 4 miles. Yeah, so that kind of saved us a little bit of mileage there, and I was super grateful for that, because that would have been a really long day. We finished up, it was about, I want to say it was about 3 o'clock when I got on the trailhead, and you somewhere around 4.
I remember when I got up, I kind of looked for you, didn't see you, then I turned on my phone and called you, and you were there in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, so everything worked out really well. My suggestion to you, the viewer, if you're planning on doing this hike, plan. Make a good game plan, stick with it. Also, be kind of willing and flexible to kind of adjust, especially if you're doing your permit dates, because we went during early winter and there are fewer people on trail, but those trails will fill up as the weather gets better, especially during the spring and summer, early summer, and early to late fall. Those trails become crowded. The national park system in itself has become overwhelmed with visitors over the last few years. So we had a little snafu with the camera. For some reason it shut off. We missed the ending part of our conversation. As you can see, Todd has already gone. So I'll try to pick up real quick where I left off, and that was the trails being overwhelmed with visitors. Spoke with someone in one of my trips to the rims in a vehicle at the Conservancy, and he stated that him and his family tend to travel to the bottom of the canyon during the winter because there's less people and it's a lot more comfortable down in the canyon. So yeah, that about wraps it up. In the previous closing that we attempted to record, Todd expressed that he enjoyed himself despite his injury, and that he learned a lot, and was happy with the trail overall and what we accomplished with him being almost 66 and myself being 47. We were very pleased and excited to have accomplished what we did, and it's a good thing. I think everybody should make their attempt to get outside in some way, form, or fashion. Get on the trail, take a drive in nature, whatever you got to do. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Reminder, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'll be coming out with more videos here in the future, a couple of gear reviews, and hopefully we'll get that to you soon. So in the meantime, remember to get outdoors. Anything else you'd like to add, Todd?
You're not going to experience anything different from the couch.